1,000 displaced Palestinians have begun returning to northern Gaza following the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. The truce, brokered through intense negotiations in Egypt with the involvement of Qatar, Turkey and the United States, marks the first phase of a broader peace plan. Israeli forces have started pulling back from key areas, allowing thousands of families to move back towards their homes along reopened roads in northern Gaza. Humanitarian aid is set to flow more freely, with the Rafah border crossing with Egypt reopening next week. And hundreds of aid trucks are now queued to enter Gaza. Meanwhile, displaced Palestinians have described how they feel as they head back north after months of displacement. Listen in.
الحمد لله شعورنا شعور لا يوصف. الحمد لله الله بنتي هذه عندها كسر في الجمج من اصابه برضه في الحرب هذه، والحمد لله هلأت ان شاء الله بقدر اعالج ابني وتكون اخر معاناه لنا هذه بقدره الله. بس احنا مبسوطين عهد الله كثير 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 احنا انها وقفت هالحرب وخلصت المعاناه تبعتنا بقدره واحد احد يا رب.
واحنا والله تعبنا كثير كثير كثير، والحمد لله لقيت احنا راجعين على غزة، وان شاء الله ربنا بياخذ باليد ويكون قدامنا كويسة البلد، وتكون دورنا نلاقي لنا خرج نقعد فيه.
With us on the broadcast is Mr. Ali Mohammed Abushbak, independent Palestinian researcher, joining us from Cairo. We've heard, in fact, what some of the Palestinians who are now finally heading back home after months have had to say. They've expressed their elation, even as we can see these very chilling visuals. They're all queued up to head back home, but there is a lot of rubble. Their homes have been blown to dust, yet despite all the suffering, they've still held on to hope and are finally glad to be heading back home. What is the mood like? How are you feeling? How is your extended family feeling about what we're witnessing now, this landmark peace deal that finally allows Palestinians who've been displaced to head back to their homes?
Thank you, Bia, for having me. In fact, on the ground, the situation, it's mixed them feeling for the Palestinian in Gaza. They are so happy and they are optimistic about the ceasefire and the end of the military operation in Gaza, but also the civilians who returned to Gaza city. They found the rubble, they found the ruined, the massive and the volume of destruction. It was unprecedented for them, especially the people now. They are shelterless, and we are talking about 100,000 civilians. They are without any shelter. Most of people, they return to ensure about and check about the situation of their properties and residential homes and residential unit. People who found their home, it's completely destroyed after the military operation in Gaza City. They are hopeless and they are disappointed about their future, what they will do, and especially about the restructured Gaza and about rebuilding their home. So most of the people disappointed after they found their residential unit. It's left ruined in Gaza City, and as we mentioned, there is several of people return, and also some people they remain in south part of Gaza. They didn't go back to their home after the destruction, and they sure that their home destroyed because of the Israeli bombardment. And worth mentioning that Israel during the military operation in Gaza City, and we are talking about here the second phase of Guardian Chariot, that's Israeli military operation, which start in May and ended in this time. The Israel used explosive report that left, and that's laden by 100 ton of explosive and TNT. So that left all the residential unit in Gaza City, most of the residential unit left as a ruin and rubble. So nowadays in Gaza, they are start to prepare to keep, the ways and clean the ways after the destruction and the the ruin and because of the rubble. So to clean the way and to keep it, the people to go and come back from that area. Unfortunately, some of people, they are not optimist about the ceasefire. They consider it as a fragile ceasefire. They are afraid because we have witnessed that during the January and the March during this period, it was a negotiation between Hamas and Israel, and suddenly Israel resumed the war. So there is no guarantee about this, and most of I talk with several of people, they are not optimistic that much, and they said that they are not feeling like the same feeling last time when Israel uh, 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 about the ceasefire during the January and mid. They said we are still afraid about resume the war and return back to suffering. There is a several of a challenge in Gaza City that facing the civilians and the people who's managing managing Gaza City and restructuring and rebuilding the Gaza. There is a no water, there is a lack of food, and there is a lack. Also, they are suffering from the destruction of telecommunication and without no internet. So there is a several of a challenge for the civilians who return from south to north. Also, we are talking about the route. There is completely destructed, and that prohibited the civilians for mobility and for moving. Some of civilians, they couldn't recognize their home, and they couldn't recognize their neighborhood. Most of the people, they didn't understand what happened, and they couldn't imagine the volume of destruction on the ground. But also on media and reported that today afternoon, after 3 hours, Israel will allow for humanitarian aid to enter Gaza. Around 600 trucks, according to reports, that will end Gaza from Egypt to Gaza to Gazian civilians, and will take the global kitchen. They will take the duty to deliver this food for the civilians in Gaza without any rule for UNRWA, the body of United Nations. So also there is, as I mentioned before, the social cohesion is deeply impacted in this time during this war. The relationship between the civilians, it's intense because of the continuous bombardment and the trauma that the people impacted from. As I mentioned, also there is a no market in Gaza City. There is a several of a challenge that face the civilians. That's it. When I talk to several of family, they confirmed me and empathized that they are not going to return. And when I talked to one of family, they said, "We'll go back Gaza for what? For rubble, for ruin, and again Israel will resume the war. There is nothing, and then we'll manage again our mobility or displacement again, and we will return the suffering again and again." So as I mentioned in the very beginning, the feeling it's mixed between optimist and pessimistic atmosphere, and we hope now Hamas is going to prepare to handed the captive tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Hopefully it will works, and hopefully Hamas also ask help from Egypt to allow for them to heavy equipment to enter Gaza for looking for the remain body of the Israelis captive in Gaza City, especially because of the, as I mentioned, the volume of destruction, and during the war Israel deliberately bombardment the heavy equipment that used from Gaza during the war. Uh, there is no civic service in Gaza City. Most of the hospital, also the clinic, is destroyed because of the Israeli bombardment. Or we are talking, there is no school, no universities. Nothing have been remained in Gaza City. So it's a several of a challenge that facing the civilians and administration in Gaza City. Likewise, in Gaza Strip, it's worth mentioning that several of people also who couldn't return to their home from north because Israel seized a several of land from Gaza as a buffer zone, and according to the first phase of negotiation, and Israel has a significant point in Gaza, especially we are talking about the East Salahuddin highway or route in Gaza. All of this area, it's under Israeli's control, and that people around 200,000 of civilians, they are uh, settled down in this area, so they are prohibited to return to their home and to check about their property, it's safe or no, or about the situation of their property. Worth mentioning that a massive of civilians, I mean, who's flee Gaza during the war, who's left Gaza city, Strip, not Gaza City, who's went to Egypt or Qatar or any kind of area. I talked to them about it's they are excited to return to Gaza in case the border is going to open or no. They are not optimists. They said at least to rebuild and restructure Gaza, it needs 5 to 6 years. And if we will go back, we will go back for ruin and trouble. So why we should go there? And several of people who got stuck outside Gaza, they are not optimists. They are not. They didn't show me any willingness to return to Gaza Strip because most of them not from Gaza City. They are from now North or South Gaza. Uh, Also, I talked to several of patient people in Gaza. They confirm the way the day when Israel is going to open the border between Gaza and Israel, they are going to continue their treatment journey, and they will leave Gaza for treatment journey. And they said we don't have any plan for future. Here, it's the atmosphere about their future is still blurred and still related to the ceasefire and related to the peace process between Gaza and Israel. Hopefully, these things it will work, but also mention people is not optimist, and I talked to several of people. I compared between their statement during the ceasefire and during January, and this ceasefire, most of people not optimist, and they are not happy that the way they were happy during the first peace ceasefire between Gaza and Israel. Uh, Also, we are talking about today, several of leaders, they will come visit Sharm el-Sheikh for the negotiation. And still, it's carrying on the negotiation between Hamas and Israel. The second phase is the huge challenge between both of them, between Hamas and Israel.
Yes.
Several of challenging facing them, especially we are talking about lying down and disarm Hamas. This a huge challenge, which there is a no any confirmation and there is no information about this case or this issue. We will wait for the time and we will see how they will manage it. Hamas, as I know Hamas mental, they are not going to lie down its weapon, and this will be a huge challenge for the delegation and for the negotiation.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX.